things to you that have never been done before.
We the people tell the government what to do. It doesn't tell us. We the people are the driver. The government is the car. And we decide where it should go and by what route to do. We the people are free. And I hope we have once again reminded people that man is not free unless government is limited.
Oh, there I am, parked down in the corner again. I'll bring myself up here, shall I? How are you, folks? Lovely to sight your bodies on this very fine evening, and I hope it's not chilly in your part of the world. I fear, though, that could well be a bit of a lost cause. It has been very, very nasty in this part of the world. Interesting to see Tony first in the chat tonight. Lovely to have you in, mate, and dead heated with the lovely Rachel, so lovely to have her in. And I notice Michelle Bradley Smith 1 minute later, and then Vince, the waving wonder himself, just ambles into the room, 5:36, says, "Hey, Tony, hi, nice and warm, I hope. Yeah, all good." And then he proceeds to ignore you for the next 55 minutes. I don't know. Well, I do know. He was talking to me, so apologies for that. God love him. He's a good man and works hard for all of us. So can't thank him enough for the support that he gives me. And I'm very happy and proud to have him in our family as one of our admins, as are the other girls that I have. Oh, that insinuates he's a girl. He's not a girl. He's just a waving wonder. But the lovely Aussie Sue, the wonderful Sunflower, and Michelle Bailey Smith, who is floating around in there too. I think I saw Aussie Sue in there, and I'm not sure if Sunflower has popped in yet, but I'm sure she will. The other persons of interest that have poked out tonight is Sandy. Hello, gorgeous. I hope you and Baz are doing well, and the sanctuary is drying out. I did see one of your posts where you went down, checked out one of the bottom fences today and got bogged. Well, might be another few weeks before you get down the bottom, but hopefully it is clearing up. I also saw a post that said there was snow blowing in off the Barrington Tops. Oh, my God. Well, we may as well have had snow here. I think if there had been the slightest bit of rain, we would have. But talk about bloody cold. The last few nights have just been terrifyingly cool for a bloke who likes to stay warm. And today I found myself lighting a fire out the back here, not just to get rid of a bit of crap, but just somewhere I could stand where it was warm for a while. Even found myself doing the lawns at one stage just to try and warm up. God, who knew? Weird indeed. G'day, Harm. Haven't seen you around for a while, mate. I hope you are well. And the lovely Ebbs is looking after you. Ebbs is a beautiful black puppy dog, for those of you who are unsure. On red alert ads. I've probably missed a few people here. Hello, Denise. And Sandy's made a bit of an offer. If anybody is ever driving past the Hunter Valley and you'd like to do a little bit of donkey therapy, she's basically thrown open her doors to Voice of Freedom family members, which is wonderful of her and Baz. So if you happen to be traveling up the Pacific Highway or down the Pacific and you think you might need a little bit of a break, it's only a short detour off the highway. And I can assure you that a little bit of donkey therapy is a wonderful thing. Say hello to Disco for me. Nudge, nudge, wink, wink. Just trying to scan a few of your comments here. Platinum, yes. Some interesting things going on in the world of precious metals, are there not, folks? Let me just have a look up here. $56.19 is the current price of silver. Platinum, $1,893.16. It is on the way up and has grown significantly in the last a little over 3 weeks, I think it is. And if you have invested in it, you'd be a very, very happy chap. Tony, I think, is. Gold, on the other hand, is, mooching along at 5,129.89 there on the Ainsley Bullion charts. Go to ainsleyBullion.com.au if you want to see the price for yourself. And, of course, if you're going to buy, don't forget to use our name, Voice of Freedom, or if you so choose, you can use my name. And that should allow you to, I'm just going to show you a beautiful screen that's going up here at the moment with Ainsley. You should be able to get yourself a little discount, which will be great. Now, if you're lucky enough to be able to afford this is a bit of a special. Now, this special is only on at ainsleyBullion.com.au for the next 24 hours or so. It went live at midday today. So you have until midday tomorrow, should you have a spare $5,276.87, although it'll be slightly less than that with a discount. Get a load of this magnificent dragon release. Now, it's a Perth Mint release. 1 ounce of gold bullion featuring the dragon in the rectangular format. Of course, anybody who is into collecting will probably see one of these, even though there are going to be a reasonable number. In fact, if I open that up, it'll probably tell us how many are going to be minted. Great long thing. Can't see any appropriate numbers there. Anyway, there's likely to be a few thousand of them. However, if you are into collecting, just look at the detail in that dragon. Forget about the crownless Burke with his picture on the other side of it. I'd have it just for that dragon alone. But me and dragons, you know, we have a bit of a thing. I like dragons a bit. A lot. More than a bit. I like dragons a lot. I should qualify that, but I'll do it on another night because I've got a bit to get through tonight. So I trust you are all well. I trust life, the universe, and everything is treating you in a happy way. I wish nothing but blessings and goodness for you and yours. And in this time of change, there is battles happening everywhere. But it seems some of those battles might be starting to be won. Now, the beginning of tonight's show is going to be a bit of a Joe Rogan, Patel fest, I'm afraid. Patel has appeared on the Joe Rogan Experience, and it's a 2.5 hour show. In it, there are many, many gems, and I would encourage you to go and have a listen to the show. However, I would encourage you to have a listen to the show with an inquiring mind. Now, there is a lot of new information that Patel releases in this chat with Joe Rogan. The chat was recorded, I believe, in the day or two, maybe the day before the LA riots broke out. And there's certainly some interesting pieces to it. So I've picked out a few of them. Now, Patel started by revealing that once he got into the FBI director's chair, he made a really interesting discovery. That discovery was a secret room, a vault, that had been set up, fully locked, very security, and disguised, not to be found. Set up by previous heads of the FBI, their deputies, and the associates working with them. And inside that vault was evidence of all sorts of things. Now, a range of things came to light with the opening of that vault, and he said that the evidence in there is of such meticulous detail and of so much volume that his teams are working through it, and that as soon as they are able, they will share that information with us. Now, one might argue that that information has begun to be shared when we see stories like this come out. It says it's official, Fauci's wall of protection has fallen. According to FBI Director Patel, federal agents have executed a direct raid and seized Anthony Fauci's personal phones and hard drives. What they've recovered isn't just data. It's the evidence the world was told didn't exist. The man who dictated global pandemic policy is no longer hidden behind a podium. His communications are now in the hands of the investigators, and the spicy cough narrative is on the verge of total collapse. Now, during the interview with Rogan, and I'm not going to play you any of these pieces, that's why I'm reading this, he says that the Bureau now holds Fauci's private devices, his phones, internal drives, encrypted messages, and what's inside directly contradicts his sworn testimony before Congress. That's a serious point. So they're not just talking about management failures, they're talking about deliberate concealment, foreign coordination, and documentation of gain-of-function knowledge before the first lockdown even began. Rogan obviously is quite stunned about all this, and you'll hear some of his reactions in what I'm about to play you. He wanted to know if Fauci lied under oath, and Patel obviously didn't hesitate and said absolutely yes. Emails between Fauci, NIH leadership, the foreign health authorities and private consulting firms. Many of those messages reportedly detail media instructions, damage control planning, and the suppression of dissenting scientific voices. One folder, reportedly labeled WIV protocol, could tie directly to pre-2020 knowledge of the Wuhan lab activity, which is being discovered now is no longer speculation. It's a provable point, and it is deception on a global scale. It doesn't stop there. There's more buried in the vault in the Hoover building, concealed for years by James Comey's deep state network. Inside were drives containing political surveillance documents, classified pandemic contingency files, and even previously unseen Epstein-linked material. Now, these weren't conspiracy theories. They were buried assets, hidden to protect the very structures now being dismantled. The raid wasn't just about Fauci. It was about the entire machine that protected him. And this is the moment that the regime never wanted. Trump's FBI director didn't wait for permission. He moved on in. With truth as his weapon and the people behind him, Patel shattered the myth of Fauci's untouchability, and the age of worship was false. Now, let's see whether or not I've still got a camera. I don't. So you're hearing me, but you're not seeing me. Give me a moment and I'll be back. I've just got to pop out and get back in again. Bloody hate this business. Right, so we return. Let me remove that and move on to a few other bits and pieces regarding what potentially has come to light after these very significant fines from, I assume, to be the vault. But maybe not. There might be quite another or a number of other areas of investigation. In fact, I'm sure there are. All of this was hidden, and all of it is detailed. It's meticulous. Watch this.
Remember, these guys got Pulitzers. New York Times, same thing. These guys got the biggest award in journalism. They were proven wrong, not by me, by the own evidence created by. You know how I caught these guys? Because these guys were so arrogant, they would write everything down. And I found the documents.
Why would they write everything down?
They're so arrogant. So they think no one's going to catch us. I'm going to write everything down. We're going to put it in a lockbox. We're going to put it in a vault, and no one's going to find it. Well, you know what? I found the vault, and now I'm going to work.
Wow. Now, is there a statute of limitations on those crimes?
So generally, the statute of limitations on crimes, for process crimes that we call them, it's 5 years. But if you can tie them to an overarching conspiracy, there is no statute of limitations. So if there was more egregious conduct that no one knew about before, that we are just finding and we are investigating, then we'll have to relook at it. The one thing we will do is put out all that information to the American.
And put out all that information, I have no doubt he will. The reason that Joe was so interested in the statute of limitations is because at one point, tells the story of Nellie Orr. Now, does that name ring a bell? She's the wife of a man named Bruce Orr. He was number 4 in the Justice Department, and he was responsible for introducing the world to a man named Steele, the Steele dossier, in fact. Now, Nellie was also, unfortunately, or fortunately, running for office. She was running, I think it was for election in her home state. I want to say it was in Virginia, but it could be somewhere else. And her campaign kicked off with a great whiz and a bang, and was well funded. It's now become clear who was backing her. That was that Clinton cow, Hillary. So all of this evidence is now falling into line. And to think that Nellie Orr, who had access to certain information through her husband, wasn't sharing it, was rather incredulous. Joe, as you would expect of the man with the biggest podcast in the world, had a lot of interesting questions.
That's the goal.
How can you do that? How can you make sure it doesn't happen again ever?
Exposing it all. And I know there are people, and look, people keep calling me and saying, when are you going to arrest everybody? When are you going to go out there and arrest everybody that did everything to Donald Trump? I was like, first of all, you guys were barking at people who were in the seat before me to do that, and they didn't. They failed. The difference between me and that guy is, one, I'm the guy that exposed it. Two, I didn't tell you this, I was the guy they targeted. So while I was doing the Russiagate investigation, do you know what Trump's own DOJ, Rod Rosenstein, the Deputy Attorney General of the Department of Justice, Christopher Wray, then Director of the FBI, did to me and a dozen other staffers who were working Russiagate? They subpoenaed all of our information while I was running the Russiagate investigation. We wouldn't find out for 5 years. You want to know why? Because these guys were so vindictive. They went to the federal court, not only got a search warrant, they got a judge to say to all the telecom companies, Google, Facebook, everybody else, your banking companies, everybody, do not tell them for 5 years that we authorized this subpoena. So I just found that out last year.
Wow.
This is how hard, this is what I'm trying to show. It's not a Republican and or Democratic thing, right? It's an all-hands-on approach to protect the leadership that was so corrupt, to protect themselves and their actions and their friends. My mission is to educate the world that this happened. And as director of the FBI, I have a responsibility. I'm not just going to bring a case because somebody hurt me. They did, and they continue to do it. Shit, my house just got swatted yesterday.
What?
Yeah, but...
You got swatted?
Oh, yeah.
The head of the FBI gets swatted?
Yeah. Yeah. These people play, it's the ultimate height of hypocrisy. They have two sets of rules. One against you and one for them. And what I want to do is lay out that entire body of work for the American people with Congress. And I'm doing it with guys like Grassley and Jordan and Kennedy and Rand Paul on COVID-19. And we could talk about the origins. We actually have some pretty cool developments on that front. And let the American people know that my mission has always been to put out the truth, whatever the consequences are, whoever it's against, like I did when I signed up for Russiagate. If Donald Trump was a Russian asset and I proved it, I was telling the world that. That's what matters. And if we can hold people accountable in terms of indictments, then we'll work with our partners at DOJ. But what I'm asking people is, don't trust me. I don't care about that. Look at what I have done and what we have done. That's the guy that's now in charge of the FBI. His leadership team is in place. We've got great partners at DOJ. We're the ones working on all this stuff. And and look, let's just get to it because I know it's on people's minds. Epstein, right?
Yeah. Well, let's get to Epstein. So there is an awful lot of stuff about Epstein. Did he kill himself? Was the evidence of that death covered up? If he did kill himself, why has there been such a shroud over it? Was there incompetence involved? Is the FBI still covering something up? I think that's a very, very fair question and fielded pretty well.
Right? The reason people are pissed off about that is the same thing, right? 20 years ago or whenever it was, 2006, 7, 8, Epstein gets his sweetheart plea deal, right?
Right.
After committing the most horrific crimes on planet Earth, right? I wasn't in power there. I wasn't in place there. I had, nothing to do with it. But people were rightfully pissed. I mean, this guy was committing the most grotesque acts you can against children. And the media spins up about it. Many in the media protected him. Why? Because of his relationships, who he knew, who his bankers were, who his colleagues were, who was on the island and stuff like that. Some pretty powerful human beings. And so when you peel back the layer and then what happened? The Trump administration, the last go round, decided, no, we're not going to let that go. We're going to investigate him, right? They charge him, they indict him, and he's awaiting trial. And I've said it. Dan Bongino said it. We've reviewed all the information, and the American public is going to get as much as we can release. He killed himself. Do you think, let's play out the logical conclusion of this. Do you think that myself, Bongino, and others would participate in hiding information about Epstein's grotesque activities? Or do you think we would also participate in not prosecuting people we had evidence to prosecute people on? But the problem is there's been like 15 years of people coming in and creating fictions about this that doesn't exist. Where's the videotape of an Epstein Island of X, Y, and Z committing these frauds? Why haven't you given it to us? Do you really think I wouldn't give that to you if it existed? I'm working my ass off along with the leadership at the Bureau and DOJ to get you what we're allowed to give you. And you're going to get the video of the cell, and you're going to see for yourself. And we will never be able to convince everyone.
Okay.
Never going to be able to convince everyone, and I think never truer words spoken. However, by the sound of it, we're going to get a great deal of the evidence, at least that they are allowed to release, to convince us that he did actually kill himself. So, where did Patel stand when all this began? When Epstein killed himself, did he think he'd really killed himself?
Let's get into that. So, what did you think before you got in office? Did you think that Epstein was murdered?
No.
No suspicion at all of it?
But I have a different background, right?
Right.
So I was a public defender back in the day. I used to spend a lot of time in jails and a lot of time in segregated housing units, SHUs as we call them, right? And so, and I've known people that have committed suicide in these cells. And I know how you get in, how you get out, who works the system. And so the way, based on public information at the time, that he ended up, the pictures and him hanging himself, I was like, man, that guy killed himself. There's just no way that you could have run an op and had people go into that cell and not have any video of it and not have any people come out and say, hey, yeah, I saw that guy. He shouldn't have been there, the guard or this guy. There's just no access points into places like this in the detention center he was in, which I've been in.
So correct me if I'm wrong, but what I was told, what I'd read, was that the guards were not paying attention or were sleeping.
Well,
right?
And in short order, you'll see it.
Is that correct?
Well, it's hard to surmise that from a video, right? Like,
right.
Where they and look, do guards doze off on the night shift? Yeah. But no one can get in to the cell. And if they had gotten in to the cell, you would see it.
But we were told that the cameras were down.
Well, I don't know who said that.
But that was in the news.
We're giving you all the footage we have.
So why wasn't that released like immediately? Why did this speculation escalate?
I think you'd have to ask whoever the Attorney General back then was, Bill Barr.
Did you ever see, do you remember that HBO autopsy show? Dr. Michael Baden, he's a famous forensic scientist. So he's a pathologist, and he reviewed the case, and it was his determination that it was a homicide because of the way his neck was broken. And what he said was it was indicative of a ligature strangulation. And it was because of the positioning on the neck where the marks were, that it wasn't indicative of someone hanging by their weight, which had been higher on the chin. And there's a specific break of the bones and the vertebrae that's consistent with someone who is just strangled to death.
I haven't seen it. I'll definitely take a look at it because that's part of my job.
You haven't seen that?
The report on that? No, I haven't looked at that.
Did you see any, was there any other autopsy done other than the official one?
Not to my knowledge, but if there was, you'll get it. And that's what we're doing.
See if you can find that Dr. Michael Baden thing.
Yeah. No,
Did you remember that show, the HBO show?
No.
Pretty cool show.
Yeah.
So this guy, Dr. Michael Baden, he had a long career of catching murderers, exhuming bodies, finding trace amounts of poisons, different kinds of things. And it was a crazy show, like all these wild ways.
Well, I love watching shows, and I spend a lot of time on planes. So.
Yeah, it was an old show. It was a show like from the early 2000s, I believe. But this guy was like, this very well-respected forensic scientist.